Let's return to Toni Morrison for a second and language, where she talks about how language can encourage, even mandate, surrender, the breach of distances among us, whether they are continental or on the same pillow, whether they are distances of culture or the distinctions or indistinctions of age or gender, whether they are the consequences of social invention or biology. There is a nonfiction piece that we published in our premiere issue that looks at gender in a very funny and insightful way. So I want to talk about the distinctions and indistinctions of gender within Nelly Rosario's essay, Judging a Cover by His Books, an annotated bibliography of the intellectual Mac Daddy. Who would like to start in that discussion? It was really very funny.
I really, really loved that piece. It was just funny. It's about, well, she puts together this sort of book list. What does this guy who's looking, this intellectual male of color, what is he stalking in his apartment or home to seduce women, to seduce other intellectual women of color? And it's just really hysterical. And he has these categories. What's the first one? My penis is huge.
My penis is colossal.
My penis is colossal. That's a big difference. And was it Tolstoy? War and Peace to signify this. And it was just this really enjoyable, insightful work. And it got me thinking if I had encountered any of these said males, she calls them. But there was a lot of truth there, and it was really interesting, I think, what we, well, I like that she was talking about educated people of color, because that's an interest of mine. We're, born here, brought up here, went to college, and what are we doing? How are we living our lives? How are we relating to other Americans? Because we ourselves are American, of course. So that's interesting to me. But then what kind of books and culture do you want to surround yourself with, and what does it say about you, and what do you want to claim, and what do you not want to claim, basically, from your culture, from other people's culture? It was really fascinating.
It was interesting the way she created this conversation between form and substance. She stated that form can be itself as much of a narrative as the what. The how, which is form, can be itself as much of a narrative as the what, which is substance. I want to talk about another author who also worked within that gender distance and bridging it. And his name is Victor LaValle. He was featured in our third issue. He contributed an excerpt from his novel. And Victor was interviewed by Ivelisse Rodriguez. It was a video interview, and he talked about, in this sole video excerpt, about the differences as he saw it between the genders, and how men have, some of the men that he knows, and he actually said that he was guilty of this as well, have a tendency to sometimes close their heart at points when they're really needed. They have this way of moving away. So that was enlightening. He said that the writing of the novel helped him to see that particular flaw, and it was something that forced him to work on it, so that the next time someone approached him with a need, he would be more available, as opposed to doing that two-step backwards. So overall, I think what Kweli is trying to do, and hopefully we've succeeded in the past year and a half, is to create the conversations, to provide the information and insight so that it can be passed on. So it's not just for that individual reader. We're hoping that it will create a small tidal wave of readers, and that will be able to seamlessly move the artwork within Kwei Li into middle schools and high schools as well, so that we can help the next generation to learn from the past, to use what was useful in the past to build a more positive present and future. So that's one of our missions. Kwei Li will find out soon whether or not we'll be starting it at a Harlem middle school in September. And Nicole will be one of the instructors for that program. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, Nicole? How we're going to use technology to teach the teens and
well, it's an interdisciplinary program, and we're using art, poetry, both visual and fine art, and obviously media, to help students find a creative outlet. And nowadays it's very difficult. I work with children who have special needs. I work in the school system, and art, writing, those are the first programs to go. So that we're hoping that with this program we're going to be we'll be fostering a community of learners. So it's very exciting. So we look forward to that in September.
One last thing that we'd like to talk about in this tight time, I think people are less prone to spend, so it's making the survivability of a lot of journals difficult at best. So when we think about how we're going to get through, we think about volunteerism as well as wearing multiple hats. I think it's necessary for each individual within Kwei Li to do different jobs. No one has just one task assigned to them usually. So I think we have this way of trying to go with the flow and keeping 6, 7 balls in the air at the same time. And then of course we're also dependent on the generosity of friends and family members to help us out either with time or with a nice check. So while the print journals generally have to worry a bit more because they have to work with the expense of the printing press, I think Kwei Li, because we also pay our authors for their art, we also have to take into consideration the funding that's necessary to do that with each of our issues. Because that's a commitment that we've made to not only try to nurture each artist that comes to Kwei Li. When we see the talent, we really want to help them succeed. We also want to pay them. It's rarely done. I know that Georgia Review was present at the last panel, and they mentioned that they also pay their authors. And online journals make the payments very rarely. I think there's 1 or 2 others that I know of that also try to compensate the artists that appear within their digital pages. So I think we're kind of running out of time. I want to thank you for joining us this evening. I hope that you were able to gain a little bit more information about Kwei Li and our mission. You've been wonderful, and I hope that you have a safe trip home, and I look forward to seeing you maybe at our next event. Take care. Good night.